So I'm just going to go through some NCloth stuff before we get to the NCloth fluid stuff. So there are many videos on the internet that explain the basics of NCloth. So I'm not going to go into everything. I'm just going to go into my workflow. So let's just get to it. So basically, what I want to do is have a rope that will be connected to two buildings, and in between I have a basic flag or shirt or whatever you want hanging on this rope. So it's all about planning ahead. In this case, because I know that this one's going to be a rope, I've separated the two objects. If this would be like a row of flags, I would duplicate this guy along here and like so, and then use the combine attribute to create just one item that's made out of a lot of flags. And the reason we want to do that is that when I create a cloth node, an NCloth node, I want not for each, I don't want for each flag, I want a node for all the flags together. So there's one node that's controlling all the flags together. But because this is a different item, this is a different cloth sim, this will be a separate cloth node. So basically, let's say I got two flags now. Instead of having a cloth node for each one, and then I have to go and whatever I do on this one, I'm gonna have to duplicate on this one, and then on the third one and the fourth one, it just gets too complicated. So the easiest way to do that is basically combine. So now we got flag 02. I'll press Shift Alt Delete. So I would basically have one item. Just for my own sanity, what I usually do is I go to modify center pivot, and then I can move it to where I want in space, and then I will basically go to modify freeze transformation, and we're all good. So now I have these two flags that will have the same node. Alright, so flags GO2 is now just clean up my scene. Alright, so these guys are going to be my SimGeo. Sorry, I always drop the E. I don't know why I do that. Group. Sorry. GRP. So I got my SimGeo group. And this guy's going to also be in there. And he's going to be basically our rigid dynamics. Okay, so he's basically going to be the thing that these things collide with and connect to. So yeah, all right, so let's start creating NCloth nodes. All right, so we got these icons here, but let's start off by using some menus just because it's easier, and you should know where these are in the menus before you use shortcuts. So the first thing I want to do is create my NCloth nodes. So I'm going to do them one at a time, and the reason I do them one at a time, because if I don't and I go open the caching, not the NCloth one, there we go. If I go create NCloth, basically we'll create the nucleus, create NCloth 1 and NCloth 2, and it doesn't name them the same as I named these guys. It's just there, and the only way to know which one to damn how to know which node belongs to which geo is or press 4, and then you could see the color change, or go to window, node editor, and so on, which is a bit annoying. I mean, so I usually do them one at a time, but in this case what I'll do is just copy the name here and paste it here. So that will be rope. And I'll copy the name of this one and then paste on this one. And this one will be flags. All right. All right, so the next thing I want to do is make my buildings passive collider or rigid, and I'll do that. So I get a passive collider. Let's just copy buildings and just name everything. It's very important to keep clean house. All right, so usually I name my nucleus, but in this case I won't do it. The reason is that if you name your nucleus, it's if you want to have multiple dynamic situations in your scene, let's say balloons and hair or cloth, then what you can do is balloons will have a negative gravity, so they'll float up, and everything else would have the opposite gravity. So that would be another nucleus. The only problem with that method is that the two systems will not interact. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's put this into a group and call this NCloth GRP. All right. Actually, I always do this. Don't know why. And there we go. So I got my SimGeo and I got my NCloth group. All right. So now if I press play, you'll see everything will just crash and done, but it's a bit slow, and that could be from two reasons. One, that if I right click on my timeline and go back to playback speed, I not playback every frame maximum real time, right? So now it should be better. There you go, slightly better. Let's see what problems we're having. One, if you have a look, you can see that. Actually, I will turn on my ambient occlusion because that will kind of help. You could see that our objects are kind of floating in space and not really touching the ground. And the reason for that is that my collision thickness is set at 1.4. So I'm just going to go 0.1. All right, so I selected my geometry, my collision geometry, which is the buildings, and underneath the rigid shape, I have found the thickness and I moved it down to 0.1. So if I press play, you'll see it's just gonna fall down lower and it's closer to the geometry. All right, got 2 minutes left. So to this video, let's finish setting it up. So now we're going to choose our nucleus, and this is something that a lot of people don't get, but your size of the scene matters how your nucleus behaves. It's usually it's set to 1 unit. I mean, its scaling is set to centimeters. So if you look at the scaling, it's 1. So it's kind of faking the size, but if you want it to act as natural as possible and move, the correct speeds, basically because each unit is in centimeters, I'm going to have to knock this down to 0.01 instead of, because this is in meters and not in centimeters. So now you'll see it will fall down a lot faster and the weight will be different. But why do I say that the size of your scene matters? Because this is just a meter high, all right, each one of these buildings. And let's say that this is at least a 2-story building. So let's say one story is about 2.5 meters. That will mean that 2-story building will be at least, let's say, 6 meters high, right? So I'm just gonna ballpark it up to 0.1, and I should get a nicer speed to my sim. So I'm going to stop the video here because I'm up to 10 minutes and that's enough. And that's just simple setup. We haven't done constraints or anything else. And we'll do that in the next video.